Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, always late, and I'm ready to talk some football with you guys this morning. We've got more training camp news. As we know, 23 teams reported to camp yesterday. We have 4 more teams reporting to camp today, and 5 other teams, of course, filling out that whole 32, reported to camps over the last week. Everyone starting today is there. We have some reports of the teams that came in yesterday. So we're going to be talking, we've got honestly a lot of news to talk about today, really. So it's going to be a good one. So go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, so good morning, everyone. Mark, Best Ball, Ryan, the other Jason, the Fantasy Plumber, Donald, the Bearded Prince, and Dakota. Glad to see you all this morning, as always, rocking with some football news, tuning into Wake and Take. You guys truly are the best, and so thankful for you guys being here every single morning with me. We've got some news to talk about today, and it is only news today. We're not getting many takes from you, boy. I mean, we'll get takes upon the news, but genuinely, just a lot of stories coming out yesterday, and a lot of also just interesting things in general. We're going to start today's show playing a little bit of a Hard Knocks clip. I don't know if you guys have been seeing this go around at all, but it's pretty interesting stuff. It is basically the Giants wide receiver coach talking about which rookie wide receiver they could want if they could choose between the 3. And there's also shows a little bit of like a meeting, if you will, with all 3. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. You guys check this out with me. Pretty fun stuff.
We motion Richie across. The corner's over, and he runs over. What do you got, Lee? What you going to tell Daniel as you go past him?
Run the slant.
Huh? You going to tell me run the slant? Predetermined? What you going to say?
Keep it low.
I'm over there. I'm talking about. What's the break point right here, Ron?
+1.
+1. Minimum. If you can be +2, great. Okay. Right? We don't got to shrink it down in there. Right? In fact, okay, this young man's dad get to the Hall of Fame on his play.
He's caught more passes than any player in league history in a single season.
5-yard ends.
Yeah, 5-yard ends.
The wide usually run a seam though.
Yeah.
Seam or the corner off
Yeah.
of it.
I love it. We draft all 3 of you guys, man. This ride, you know what I'm saying? That was good. Really good. Best ever. Okay? Excellent.
So you're on the clock right now. You got to make a decision. One of those 3.
I take Neighbors.
Yeah, so you hear right there, the Giants wide receiver coach, Mike Rowe, if given the choice to choose between any of the 3 wide receivers from this rookie's class, like the big 3, says that he would have had Malik Neighbors over Rome Odunze, over Marvin Harrison Jr. Of course, we already knew about Rome Odunze, given that they did, of course, pick Malik Neighbors over him. But it's just even more interesting to just hear the confidence that this team has in Malik Neighbors. And I'm excited to really see how it pays off. There's really not much to add about that. I just thought it was a cool little clip. This Giants Hard Knocks thing has been awesome just to see how the front office has kind of worked throughout the offseason and everything like that. Very, very cool insight into the team. And it's just nice to see, kind of the interview process with all 3, seeing how these guys work and how they understand their routes and stuff like that. I will say this, a lot of what the Giants seem to be drawn to when it comes to Malik Neighbors is his confidence level. Like every single clip we're just hearing about or from this thing really is just Brian Daboll essentially calling Malik Neighbors a dog and stuff like that. Like they're not really doing much in terms of his film study and everything. Like the only thing that Malik Neighbors said in this clip was, "I'm open." Right? Like, he didn't even talk about the intricacies of routes or anything going on with the play like Rome Odunze or Marvin Harrison did. So I'm very interested to see how it plays out. Obviously, this guy is extremely talented and very, very athletic, but we do have the quarterback issue. We have just kind of a weird team issue in general, not that great of an offensive line. I do still pump the brakes for rookie season. Malik Neighbors, being completely honest with you, I do think he'll figure it out. And I do think once the Giants replace Daniel Jones, he will be a star. But I do think that this rookie season is going to be a little bit more difficult. And that is why I'm kind of fading him right now at his current value. I'm drafting Marvin Harrison. I'm drafting Rome Odunze, but I have not really been getting too much Neighbors. Even as athletic as he is, I just don't really have much trust in this Giants offense. And I haven't really seen enough from him beyond the athleticism, to be completely honest with you guys. So that was that clip, though. Very just cool to see the insights on this Hard Knocks thing going on right now with the Giants. And I hope that they continue to do it with other teams going forward. And I'm sure they will. So that is that. Why don't we go ahead and bounce into some of the actual news, though, some stuff coming out from around the league. And we'll start with Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup has actually retired. Out of nowhere, really. Michael Gallup is no longer playing football anymore. He, of course, has just joined the Raiders and has, over the last few years, kind of fallen off. And honestly, I was surprised to see he's 28 years old. I don't know why. Michael Gallup, just in my head, has kind of always stayed at like 25, and that's just what he is. But yeah, he's up to 28 now. He does have that 1,000-yard season all the way back in 2019. And since then, his production has dwindled every single year. He had the 1,000 yards in 2019, 840 in 2020, 440 in 21, 420 in 22, and 418 in 2023. So it's just gone down every single year. And he honestly, even in efficiency metrics or anything, just has not really looked that good ever since CeeDee Lamb was brought into the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, he, of course, did suffer an injury, and that derails a lot of careers, unfortunately. He did have that third-round draft capital. And again, he had the 1,000-yard season, so he had the talent at one point. But those injuries, they catch up to you at some point. Bouncing around from team to team, that catches up to you at some point. And I'm sure he got to the Raiders and was just like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm behind Jacoby Myers. I'm behind Devontae Adams. I don't even know who my quarterback is going to be. I'm just going to hang it up. And I don't blame him. You know, it was an okay career, you know, and he did what he could. And unfortunately for him, he is hanging up the cleats. Wish him the best at his next step. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. I mean, like, it's not like he wasn't very fantasy relevant anymore. So it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, you got to go pick up the new wide receiver 3 on the Raiders. I just don't think it really matters, really, to be honest. I'm sure somebody will fill those shoes, but I doubt that they become very fantasy relevant. Like, it's pretty much going to be consolidated between the Michael Maye, the Brock Bowers, the Devontae Adams, and the Jacoby Myers, in my opinion. And if anything, maybe, call me crazy, maybe this opens the door for Hunter Renfrow to get re-signed. We know that he's still sitting around as a free agent right now, and of course has been a Raider his entire career. Now, of course, he has his injury concerns as well. But that's kind of where my head's going. If anything, like, maybe this opens the door for Hunter Renfrow to return. I don't know. But either way, I'm not really like, you can drop Michael Gallup. You probably could have dropped Michael Gallup a long time ago. And I don't really think there's anyone on the Raiders, at least, to go pick up. I would just go search around for some Andre Yosevis or something like that, or a Tyquan Thornton, maybe. I think that could be fun too. The deep shot, or the athletic guy on the Bengals, you know, those types, right? Like a role player, or, you know, even Calvin Austin hype is building up, but I'm not really buying it. Either way, Michael Gallup is retiring, and, you know, wish him the best. We'll move on. Speaking of Michael Gallup, why don't we talk about the guy that kind of replaced him and kind of started this whole downhill career for Michael Gallup? It is CeeDee Lamb, who is still holding out at camp right now, subjecting himself to some fines throughout training camp and all that stuff. He still has his contract dispute. And honestly, this is going to be short. I mean, I don't know what to say beyond just pay the man. If I am the Dallas Cowboys front office, I don't know what mental gymnastics I'm going through to figure out why I'm holding out and not just paying CeeDee Lamb. Like we talked about on the show, I understand why you might take your time extending Dak Prescott, or even just completely moving on from Dak Prescott, because, you know, at the end of the day, he is getting up there in age. He does have the injury concerns, and you have an interesting backup young quarterback in Trey Lance behind him to where you could kind of have a bridge year, or at least talk yourself into it. There's nothing the Cowboys can do if they lose CeeDee Lamb. Like, genuinely. I love Ryan Flournoy. He's not a CeeDee Lamb replacement. He's barely even a Brandon Cooks replacement, I bet. So this is just honestly horrible management from the Dallas Cowboys. I can't think of a single reason why you wouldn't make CeeDee Lamb paid as one of the highest paid wide receivers in the league. And honestly, I think if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I might pay him more than Justin Jefferson. Being completely honest with you, it's like $500,000, $1 million more a year. I don't care. Like, CeeDee Lamb needs to be on your team if you're the Dallas Cowboys. Just has to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. If they let him go, which I don't think they will, it would probably be the worst decision really in NFL history, or at least franchise history, to let this guy walk. I mean, there is no contingency plan. There's no wide receiver depth. And if you are to move on from Dak Prescott, like some of these rumors are boiling up for, then who's going to be catching passes? Like, it would just be so asinine to not bring back CeeDee Lamb and to just extend him and pay him the money. Just pay the man. It's so easy, Dallas. Just pay CeeDee Lamb. There's literally not a single reason not a single fucking reason to not extend CeeDee Lamb. I'm curious if you have an idea of why the Cowboys might be doing this, other than just like, milking it to maybe squeeze out, some extra savings. I can't. I just, it's disrespectful to CeeDee Lamb. It's disrespectful to Cowboys fans. It's just disrespectful in general and stupid. It's just disrespectful and stupid. So CeeDee Lamb, I hope you get your contract. I want to see you out there. We know that, generally, if you don't show up to training camps, you do go through some growing pains, at least early in the season, as you miss this time to get acclimated to game speed. Not saying you shouldn't be drafting CeeDee Lamb, although I haven't really had his ADP. I'm just saying that, the longer this holdout goes on, like, it could affect at least his week 1 through like 5 performance, which isn't really that big of a deal. But still, I'm just saying, it is interesting development, and the Cowboys just need to pay him before it gets any worse. The next bit of news for you guys, this is just another quick one here. It's Bill Belichick. Some news is coming out from Kyle Shanahan that he actually offered the defensive coordinator job to Mr. Bill. And I just think it's cool. Bill Belichick did politely decline, actually, and was like, no. I mean, obviously we know that, given that they have the defensive coordinator not named Bill Belichick. They have Brandon Staley out there. But Bill Belichick did politely decline this job offer. I'm assuming just because he didn't want to be a defensive coordinator. I will say, if I were Bill, I think that could be a cool job to just do. I mean, it's a potential Super Bowl winning team. It's already a really, really good defense, but I doubt that he wants to, lower his legacy by going from a head coach to a coordinator position. I think he just wants to either be a head coach again or just be done, which is totally fair given his age and what he's done in his career. While defensive coordinator, or while he might have been kind of washed, defensive coordinator just isn't really the right move for him. As cool as it would have been, I just think it was a fun little story that's coming out right now. So yeah, Bill Belichick could have been the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Not much else to add there. Another bit of news we have for you guys revolves around my guy Matthew Stafford. As we know, Matthew Stafford is one of the better quarterbacks in the league, on track to join the Hall of Fame more than likely. And right now, was kind of holding out, a little bit, didn't report to training camp, at least immediately yesterday, because of some contract disputes as well with the Los Angeles Rams. And those disputes came as he was due $31 million base salary this season on his 4-year, $160 million deal. He was signed through 2026. And while there are still 3 years remaining on his contract, only $15 million of his $27 million next year was guaranteed, and no money was guaranteed in 2026 out of his $26 million base salary. So it seems like Matthew Stafford just wanted some more guarantees on his contract, which is perfectly understandable given his age, given the whole elbow thing, and given the offensive line. And that seems to be what happened. We haven't heard what the contract adjustment is. We know it's not an extension. We know it's not a restructuring. It's just simply an adjustment. And the details have yet to be announced, but we all can kind of assume and expect that this has just been more guarantees thrown his way, which is awesome. And I got to say, that's got to add some confidence to us, to some of us Matthew Stafford dynasty managers, because he is 36 years old, and, with his contract not being very much guaranteed, I think a lot of us were kind of painting the picture that this could maybe be Matthew Stafford's last season, and maybe not finish out the contract. But seeing that they're more than likely adding some guarantees, that makes you think that, he'll probably finish out this contract, play through 2026, because at that point he'll still only be 38. And that's really not too old for quarterbacks these days, especially the statute quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford, and on a good offense run by a good coach and Sean McVay. So I think this is very exciting. I would say go buy Matthew Stafford, because I really doubt this has affected his dynasty value, at least while the details haven't come out. If the full details come out and it's like, oh, they fully guaranteed his contract or something, that could be wild and really increase his value. But no matter what, I've already been arguing that I have no idea why Matthew Stafford is valued below a Kirk Cousins, for example. Matthew Stafford, A, doesn't or isn't coming off an Achilles, and B, has a top 5 season under his belt and has looked incredible on the Rams the last few seasons. And last year had almost 4,000 yards in only 15 games. And that was kind of him returning from an injury. So I think this year he takes another step forward. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another 4,500 yard season, 30 passing touchdowns or so from him. You guys already know I'm heavily into Cooper Kupp this season. I think he's an incredible value where he's going in drafts right now. And I think a lot of value can be had on the Los Angeles Rams for sure. And I'm really happy for Matthew Stafford to be able to get this adjustment. I've been a defender of his for years, going back to Detroit. I still remember an interview with Aaron Rodgers in like 2014. And he was like, Matthew Stafford is the most underrated quarterback in the league. I mean, we know Matthew Stafford was the guy who kind of started the no-look passing. Like, this is a guy who's just been like understated and undervalued throughout his entire career, but has done nothing but produce. So good for him to get the money, and I'm very excited to see what he can do this year. I think he's an incredible buy and redraft in Dynasty, really across the board. I want him, and I still want Cooper Kupp as well. And why not, while we're on the Rams, go ahead and talk about Tyler Higbee landing on the PUP list as well. We know that was likely going to happen given he sustained an injury towards the end of last season. With him being on the PUP list, that does, of course, open the door for my guy Colby Parkinson to step in, a very deep tight end that you guys should be stashing right now. There's not a lot of production on Colby Parkinson's resume, but what you see when you watch the film is just simply a clutch factor. This guy in Seattle, was never asked to do a ton of volume, but anytime he caught the ball, it was almost always like a first down or a chunk play or something like that. Right. So I've always kind of liked him. I remember watching Red Zone, and then like randomly a Colby Parkinson catch would come up from the past couple seasons. And it's like, that guy has something. He has the long hair. He has the Stanford college. He has the 4th round draft capital. He has the 6'7", 250 pounds. He's got the size, right? So I'm excited to see what he can do in Los Angeles. We know that they have heavily used their tight ends in this offense. We know Tyler Higbee has been pretty successful. And I'm not saying there's a lot of ceiling here or anything like that, but a guy who could get you, 8 to 12 points per game is not terrible, especially when it's someone who was essentially free. So Colby Parkinson is a guy I'm stashing right now and kind of have been just because I like the long hair. Let's see. The next bit is Matthew Stafford to Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper also had a little bit of a contract adjustment here. His was more of a restructure that actually guarantees his salary for this season. He had a $20 million contract, but not much of it was guaranteed. Now all 20 of that is fully guaranteed. And they're also giving him a $5 million raise that he could earn in incentives. I think it's a great deal for Amari Cooper, and I think it's a really good deal for the Browns as well, because they are going through a situation here where they have to test Deshaun Watson. We talked about it a few weeks back. Deshaun Watson has to have one more season. He just does. As bad as he's been, and as consistently bad as he's been, he still hasn't necessarily had a full season, and there's still been the arguments out there that he doesn't really have a true wide receiver core. So they brought in Jerry Jeudy, and they weren't just going to have Jerry Jeudy. They had to have Amari Cooper as well. We all saw this coming. We talked about it with the holdout that Amari Cooper was doing a few weeks back. He was going to sign something. He was going to be on the Browns. Next year is probably where he can test the open market. But the Browns want him there. And I think Amari Cooper wanted to be on the Browns as well, at least for one more season. Might as well finish out your contract. Might as well be on a team that you've been consistently producing for. So we'll see what happens. Amari Cooper, obviously a very talented wide receiver. I think he'll be fine regardless of how Deshaun Watson performs. But if Deshaun Watson busts again, I would expect the Browns to kind of clean house, because then you're talking about, Nick Chubb getting to 30. You're talking about Jerry Jeudy more than likely not proving himself this season. You're talking about Deshaun Watson likely proving that he isn't, the Deshaun Watson of old. And then Amari Cooper wouldn't be under contract anymore. It would literally just be David Njoku. And that's just not a good team. As good as the defense is, they would probably be going full rebuild next season. Even with Deshaun Watson under contract, fully guaranteed, we could totally see just a situation where they just eat that dead cap or something like that if he's bad again. That's what I would do, at least. I think at some point you've just got to blow the whole damn thing up. And it starts now. This is kind of the testing period. Amari Cooper getting that extra season. It's going to be him. It's going to be Jerry Jeudy. It's going to be David Njoku. So, yeah. That's the Amari Cooper. Glad he got the money. Totally deserves it. Faux show. The next bit we have, while talking about contract disputes, why don't we go ahead and talk about the Brandon Aiyuk updates. Brandon Aiyuk has officially reported to 49ers camp amid the disputes. And this is what has been said about it. The club hasn't had significant contract talks with Aiyuk's representatives since May, precipitating last week's official trade request. Lynch has said, I think, again, there's no absolutes in Aiyuk being traded. and we fully intend on Brandon being a 49er moving forward. We're always open to listen to things, but like I said, we expect Brandon to be an integral part of our team like he has been, and we're excited about that. So, I mean, again, it sounds like Brandon Aiyuk is going to be a 49er this season. We all know it, right? Like, he is still technically under contract this season under that 5th-year option. It's just not the money that he wants. But at the end of the day, there's really not too much that Brandon Aiyuk can do about it, unfortunately for him. Does he deserve more money than $14 million? Yes. Does he deserve to be one of the higher paid wide receivers in the league? I really don't think so. I really do think that the argument about a lot of his efficiency last year being a byproduct of the San Francisco 49ers offense is true. It's just true. I don't care, right? Like, yes, he had a very efficient season, like the 24th most targets, but had the 7th most receiving yards. Like, that is the definition of efficiency. But that's also going to happen when you're in a wildly crowded wide receiver room, run by an offense, run by a Shanahan that delivers the ball well, right? Like, it is just like, it is a very, very good scheme conducive to wide receiver success. And I could see why teams are hesitant to pay up. But even then, we're hearing some pretty good offers, at least rumors of some pretty good offers that were sent the San Francisco 49ers way. We know that the Patriots actually offered the 34th overall pick, which is pretty high up there. And I want to say I heard another rumor about a pretty decent wide receiver and a pick being offered. I can't remember the name, though. But either way, I remember being like, I'm surprised they didn't take that deal. But what I'm continuously seeing about this, and my take hasn't changed too much. I mean, I keep kind of going back and forth, like, is I still can't wrap my head around Brandon Aiyuk having the Commanders practice film. I don't get it. I don't understand why Jayden Daniels, A, would give that to him, and B, why he would be studying it. I don't know. But, this is just very similar to the Deebo Samuel. This is very similar to the Bosa thing where it just drags and drags and drags. And then it's solved, right? And we know that Deebo Samuel is a huge trade candidate after this season. So that still seems to be the case here, where it's probably going to, the 49ers keep the band together this season. And next year, they're probably going to move on from Deebo Samuel in a similar way that the Bills moved on from Stephon Diggs, whether it be a trade or, they could release him too. There's not too much dead cap there, or at least it's eatable for a team like the 49ers. And, with Ricky Pearsall going into a second year, Jacob Cowing potentially being good, they could move on from a Deebo Samuel. I hate it. I love Deebo, but it seems to be that is the way this thing is trending. And while on the 49ers, I feel like I did have an update. Yes, Ricky Pearsall is on the PUP list due to a hamstring injury. That is not what you want to hear at all. You guys know I have been telling you here on Wake and Take to not be drafting Ricky Pearsall. I've said it in Dynasty. I've said it in Redraft. I don't think it makes any sense. He doesn't have that great of college production, and a lot of the hype building up from him is from one good catch in college. Yes, he has great hands, but I'm telling you, when I spoke to him at the Senior Bowl, it didn't seem right. He wasn't that great at the Senior Bowl. He didn't stand out that much. I still have no idea why his agent let him leave early. I don't get it. I really don't. He has been the weirdest prospect to me. I have no idea how he got first-round draft capital. I have no idea why he has all this fantasy football hype. And to see the hamstring injury come through, it sucks, of course, that it's an injury, but it at least kind of gives some reason for you guys to just wait. Let him prove that he could be an NFL receiver first. But he doesn't have like a ton of separation skills or anything like that. Even if he has the agility that we saw in the 3-cone drill. Like, I don't know. I'm still off on him. I don't like his current value. I think there will be a day where I like his value because obviously we want San Francisco 49ers weapons, but right now the hype is too high. Right now he's a rookie. Right now he has that first-round draft capital. Right now we had the Brandon Aiyuk rumors. There is absolutely zero reason to be buying into him right now, but there might be at some point. Either way, on the PUP list with an injury, a hamstring injury, which is one of the worst ones to see, as those tend to always linger. So hopefully they take their time in returning him. Obviously, they've done the right thing by putting him on NFI. But either way, injured to his hamstring, Ricky Pearsall. Cool. The next bit is some quarterback situations. We've actually got a lot of quarterback situations to talk about here. We will start with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels still not officially named the starter out in Washington. I think we can all agree that he's going to be named the starter, but this is what Dan Quinn said. It's not a secret, but it is a journey and a process. So as we're going, when he's ready, we'll know. And when he's ready, he'll also know. And as far as the reps go, obviously with him and Marcus and moving around, there'll be certain days that feature more of the other or more of another. But I'm glad that you brought it up. It's certainly not a secret. It's a journey and a process through practices, through scrimmages and preseason, all the way down. That's where the journey will take us. And then not trying to hold back info, but when we do know that Jayden Daniels is ready to start, we will say it. So yeah, it's just, I think this is just coach speak. I wouldn't really panic if you own Jayden Daniels and you're like, oh, why isn't he named the starter yet? Like, how is he not beating out Marcus Mariota? Camp is just beginning. You know, a lot of things have to happen. And Dan Quinn kind of has been kind of a close to the vest, take your time kind of guy. So it might just take a little bit before it comes official, but we know it will be. And I think worst case scenario, Marcus Mariota maybe starts week 1, but I doubt he starts week 2, right? Like we know who Marcus Mariota is at this point. He's fine. He's fine. I wouldn't even say fine. He's like kind of fine. I don't know what I don't think on a scale, guys, help me out here. Is okay better than fine, or is okay worse than fine? I feel like they're about the same. I don't know. But either way, Marcus Mariota is a little bit less than fine. Like, I guess just okay. Good enough. Maybe good enough is a good way to put it. I don't know. Either way, Jayden Daniels, we all know, is way more talented than Marcus Mariota, is going to win the starting job. I would almost call this a non-story, but it is at least interesting to talk about as we know, as we see the process play out and everything like that. That's part of the fun part of everything going on this offseason, is just enjoying the process. The next bit I have for you guys is the Patriots rookie quarterback, Drake Maye. Also, of course, not named the starter, but this seems to be a little bit less, confidence-inducing when it comes to Drake Maye potentially starting for the Patriots. Right now, Jacoby Brissett is announced the starter and very, very much expected to start a decent bit of the season. And this is what Gerard Mayo had to say. Coming out of the spring, I don't think there's any doubt Jacoby is the starting quarterback at this point in time. We can look at these other quarterbacks on the roster. At the same time, it's about competition. When we get out on the field this summer with the pads on, we'll see how it all plays out. But coming out of the spring, I think it's clear that Jacoby is the most pro-ready guy we have. This goes for any position. If he comes out here and lights it up, and once again, it goes back to the quality of reps, it could absolutely happen, Mayo said of Maye. But I sit here and tell you, coming out of the spring, Jacoby looks like the starting quarterback. Now, with that being said, he'll have competition. Let's not forget about Joe Milton. Let's not forget about Bailey Zappi. All of those guys will have opportunities to go out there and be the starting quarterback in week 1. You've seen that work in the past, Mayo said, of sitting a rookie quarterback. You look at other quarterbacks, the Green Bay QBs, where they've had a lot of time. You look at those situations and they were able to sit back. There have also been situations where a guy comes right in right now and he balls out. We'll see what happens when we get out here on the field. So it's like basically Jacoby Brissett's going to start, as we know. But I do think that the door is becoming a little bit more open for Drake Maye to prove himself and start earlier than some are suggesting, to be completely honest with you. You know, I think a lot of people are expecting Jacoby Brissett to start most, if not all, of the season. But I also think we need to understand that the Patriots are not expected to win any games at all, really. And so I could see, even if Jacoby Brissett is fine, that they'll just pull the plug and be like, you know what, let's just give Drake Maye some reps. Like, it doesn't really matter if we lose, right? Like, it doesn't. And then they could get a higher draft pick. So I would just say, I think Drake Maye is an excellent buy right now. Heading into this draft process, I mean, we had Drake Maye ranked ahead of Jayden Daniels, right? I mean, like neck and neck with Caleb Williams. It's the athleticism we really like. It's the really strong arm. You know, and this is a guy who has like some like kind of Josh Allen intangibles, right? Like, he's just a big dude, has a little bit of wheels, has a cannon for an arm. And I think that is generally a quarterback that we like in fantasy football. And for some reason, he's cheap as hell to get in Dynasty, like cheap as hell. Like, I've seen him like fall in drafts, like super flex drafts, like after Brock Bowers. Are you kidding me? A tight end in a crowded room with a bad quarterback over a quarterback? Like, give me Drake Maye every single day of the week. He's one of my bigger buys right now. Him and J.J. McCarthy, I think, are excellent. I think that Drake Maye is going to end up starting sooner than a lot of people are suggesting. And I think that Drake Maye is going to be fine, at least for fantasy football purposes. We know his footwork's not great, but we know he can damn sling it. And we know that he can run a little bit too. So I would expect to see Drake Maye at least put up fantasy points, even if he's turning the ball over and getting sacked. Like, he's still going to put up points. So anyway, I like Drake Maye. I think he's a buy right now, regardless of when he starts. But I'm starting to believe that he's going to start way earlier than some are saying. And like Ryan says here in the chat, I would say by mid-season as well. I think like week 6 is kind of where my head is at. That feels about right. Let me actually, what's the Patriots bye week? I think that's probably, I mean, like right after the bye week is probably when they'll just pull the plug. Their regular season schedule per ESPN has their bye week as 14. So that's too long. They're not going to wait until week 14. So forget I said anything. Forget I said anything. They will. I'm still thinking week 6 or so, because they're definitely not going to wait until week 15. Could you imagine? That would be some malpractice right there. You got to see what your rookie has before then. Anyway, the next bit of news we have for you guys, let's see. I think that is kind of it for quarterbacks. Not really. I guess we can move on to the Raiders. And this one, I actually have no idea how to read into this completely at all. Basically, though, some stuff is coming out that so here's the tweet. Basically, 32 beat writers tweeted out, it will be hard for Minshew to beat out O'Connell at training camp because the structure of practice favors O'Connell. So the battle should come down to 3 preseason games, and there's no guarantee the winner will still be the starter in October or November. I have no idea what that means, but since this tweet has come out, since these beat reports have come out, AOC is now the favorite to be the starting quarterback for week 1. It's not like the greatest odds. It's still minus 120 to plus 100. It's actually completely flipped. Gardner Minshew was the favorite. Now it's AOC. But I have no idea what that means. What do you mean the structure of practice favors O'Connell? There was no information. Like, they didn't dive into that at all. It was just simply thrown out there. How? I don't know what that means. I really don't. I wish I knew what that means. But I have no idea how a certain practice favors one quarterback and not the other. Does that mean that they're giving all the reps to O'Connell and not Minshew? Or does that mean that they're just running the offense that they ran last year when O'Connell was the quarterback, so he's already comfortable in it? Like, I don't know what it means. Either way, it is trending towards AOC being the starter in week 1, which I hate. I at least like that this quote says there's no guarantee the winner will still be the starter in October or November. And that's exactly how I feel. Even if AOC does start week 1, I will die on the hill that Gardner Minshew is a better quarterback than Aiden O'Connell. I think it's really fair to say, given what we've seen from Gardner Minshew going back to the Jaguars. I mean, that team was ass, and he was still, keeping them in games. And then we saw he almost brought to the Colts to the playoff last year. We saw when he was on the Eagles backing up Jalen Hurts. When Jalen Hurts got hurt, he was coming in and winning games, or at least keeping them competitive as well. Like, we know he's a really good game manager, distributor of the football, and he's got good weapons in Las Vegas, where I think this could be a very good offense for Gardner Minshew to run. I really do. My Gardner Minshew bias aside, I really do. Like, this feels like a match made in heaven. Gardner Minshew throwing to Devontae Adams is perfect. Like, that is like his favorite route tree. Like, it's perfect. And so I think that's going to happen at some point. I really don't believe that Aiden O'Connell has the tools to be an NFL starting quarterback, at least for a full season. I really don't. I do believe that the film out there is there. And he still has no 300-yard games. And the only time he had more than 2 passing touchdowns was when they scored 63 points. Like, he's just not that great. Like, he's fine. He did okay. But Gardner Minshew has proven he can win games. He's proven he can be to the playoffs. It's Gardner Minshew has done everything he can. And I don't really see why he'd be the backup quarterback after signing that contract with them. I really don't. And I have no idea what they mean by the practice structure favors AOC. I have no idea what that means at all. But I guess that just means we're going to have to watch preseason for this quarterback battle. I don't know. It just seems like maybe the coaching staff just wants to give Aiden O'Connell the chance, I guess, which is fair, right? I guess it's fair. He came in last year and he was okay. He was okay. He did okay. The Raiders did better with him than they did with Jimmy Garoppolo, but also, Josh McDaniels wasn't there anymore too. Gardner Minshew is an actual NFL starting quarterback. He may not be top 25, but he's not outside the top 32. He might be 32. He could be 31 or 30, whatever. Aiden O'Connell is probably 36, you know what? AOC, I'm going to give a wake and take off the dome player comp. AOC is Davis Mills, right? Like, that's how it feels. Like, sure, he was fine. He did okay. He maybe deserved another shot, but he didn't do enough. Like, he was just fine. He's a good backup quarterback, and you can trust him. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. You still make millions of dollars as a backup quarterback, but you're not going to win as many games with AOC. You're just simply not. So anyway, that is at least my take on the Raiders quarterback situation right now. We have some updates on the Denver Broncos as well. Actually a lot of different updates. Zach Stevens, one of the Denver Broncos beat reporters, kind of just put out like a list tweet of a bunch of things going on right now. And this is what he said. What we learned with the Broncos today. Sean Payton said on the quarterback competition, looking to find the guy to beat Seattle, we're going to find him. And then went on to say that Bo Nix is a quick study. So it sounds like, as we know, Bo Nix is probably going to be the starting quarterback. Zach Wilson's not that good, and Jarrett Stidham is fine. So I mean, when you're a team that's struggling, that's decided to eat dead cap with Russell Wilson, that needs to win, you're probably just going to go ahead and just use that rookie quarterback that you got. And I actually wouldn't even say they need to win, but they need to find an identity. And Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham aren't really going to give them that identity. Bo Nix will. His connection with Troy Franklin, I think, is going to be really solid too. Either way, Bo Nix, I'm thinking it's going to be the starter week 1. It might end up I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get much preseason action, which I think could be interesting. Like if they really do kind of force it into Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham's hands until like week 3 of the preseason, maybe week 2. But either way, Bo Nix is a quick study right now, and Sean Payton is looking for their week 1 quarterback as of now, but I think they know. I think we all know too that it's going to be Bo Nix. Sean Payton also went on to say that Courtland Sutton will be here, ready to go. He also went on to say that Audric Estime will be ready for camp. He also went on to say that Greg Dulcich is expected to practice this week. So those are all really good things. Audric Estime being ready to go. Greg Dulcich practicing again. I do think that this is kind of a make or break year for Greg Dulcich. Maybe not a make or break, but like this is a big year for Greg Dulcich. I think if he can stay healthy, I really do think he could be a decent fantasy option. And given he's free, I like stashing Greg Dulcich right now. I took him on my Scott Fishbowl team because of that tight end premium. I mean, why not? Why not? He's a more like athletic tight end than Adam Troutman. I know Sean Payton likes Adam Troutman, but if you're looking for some true ceiling upside athleticism, you've got to go with Greg Dulcich, and I think he will. It's good to see him practicing this week, and hopefully he's good. Hopefully he's healthy. I know he's been battling that hamstring basically forever. Let's see. The next bit of news we have for you guys surrounds the Titans running back room. And it's awesome. It really is awesome news. You guys know, I mean, I still believe that Tony Pollard is going to be the one getting the Lions share, whatever that ends up meaning. But right now, Callahan has still come out and said, I'm not concerned about naming a starting running back. The full quote is, the fun part for me is, how are we going to deploy those guys? Maybe they both play at the same time. Maybe one gets hot and you let him run. Maybe we rotate back and forth. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but they're both going to play quite a bit of football for us, and I don't view either of them as a starter or a backup. They are both starting players to me. And I think that's kind of how we're all wrapping our head around it. Again, I still believe like Tony Pollard will edge him out maybe by like 5% or so, just because he's got a little bit better of a frame, a little bit more experience in the league, and was brought in by this regime and paid pretty handsomely for a running back. But we also know that Tyjae Spears was incredibly efficient last year, and we know that he was even holding Derrick Henry off the field. Either way, though, like I've been saying all offseason, this is one of my favorite offenses to target in fantasy football. Really every single person, genuinely. I love Will Levis. I love both of these running backs. I love DeAndre Hopkins. And I think Chico Okonkwo is still interesting, at least given his athleticism, and there's not much competition for him. But either way, what we know about this team is that they're going to pass. And generally, that's going to lead to receptions. And we know that Callahan used Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, Chris Evans, right? I could go on. Travion Williams, Chase Brown. They've had receiving backs time and time again in Cincinnati, and we know that Spears and Pollard are gearing up for a ton of receptions this season, whether it be dump-offs, whether it be actual routes, whether it be screens, all sorts of stuff are going their way. And I wouldn't be surprised if they both finished with around 50 receptions. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but I do really expect both of them to get utilized a ton in both the pass game and the run game. But I do still kind of firmly believe it will be Tony Pollard edging out Spears at least a little bit. But we'll see what that means for efficiency and all that stuff. But either way, I contend, a lot of people say don't double up on running backs. You've just got to pick one and hope you're right. I think you could be totally fine with both of these Titans running backs. I think they're going to be interchangeable. And then if an injury happens, it is literally to the moon. Like genuinely, if it was just Tyjae Spears or just Tony Pollard, we would probably all say that they're a top 8 running back. I think we would probably go as high as to say that, given the pass catching and the athleticism that we've seen from those guys. So I would be getting very excited about them. I think they're both values. Again, Tony Pollard is the one I'm flag planting, and he's an even better value. He's still only 26, I believe, maybe 27 now, but he still has really good athleticism. And we saw last year, he still had 1,000 rush yards despite being less than 100%. So I think he's got this extra offseason to get fully healthy, and I think this new style of offense will benefit him as well. But either way, both are buys to me, and I like them. I like them a lot. Which will lead us to, I've got a bunch of quick stuff, and then we'll talk Chiefs. Tua Tagovailoa, he has reported to Dolphins camp. Not much to say there, but he is there. I will say it looks like he's added some weight, which will help maybe his injuries, maybe his concussion, maybe. That's kind of the same stuff we talked about last year. We know that Tyreek Hill has kind of been poking fun at him. So hopefully he can kind of get into game shape, and maybe that's playing into why the Dolphins are being weird about these contract discussions. But either way, he's there. He's playing. And we're also hearing some interesting stuff that Tyreek Hill actually told his agent not to trade him. He was like, please don't get me traded when you're doing these contract negotiations. Like, I want to be on the Dolphins with Tua. So that's cool to see. Either way, he's at camp, not really worried about his contract discussions. He's ready to play ball. And same for Alvin Kamara, at least potentially. Alvin Kamara has also reported to Saints camp, but his seems a little bit less exciting or confidence-inducing, if you will, as after doing that, he also posted a picture of him and Marshawn Lynch to his Instagram story. And we, of course, know with Marshawn Lynch, it's the I'm here so I don't get fined type thing. So it seems like Alvin Kamara is at camp so he doesn't get fined, that he's still feeling, a little bit underappreciated when it comes to his contract and is maybe still waiting for a trade or just some more confidence from the team himself. But either way, he's there, which is good. I mean, you want to make sure that these older running backs are staying in game shape. You never want to hear holdouts for a running back ever, genuinely ever, that has not ever played out well, ever. Like Saquon Barkley was less than great last year. I mean, he was still pretty good. Josh Jacobs, declined very, very much last year. Tony Pollard, same thing, right? Like they didn't end up doing that well. They were fine. They were fine because they're super talented. But either way, Alvin Kamara is reporting to camp, so we don't even have to worry about that. He should be good. And Kyler Murray, his lateral explosion is reportedly back. We know last year his straight line speed had recovered from his ACL injury, but his quickness, his jitteriness, if you will, was gone. He didn't really have as much of that. B reporters are saying that they have seen that lateral explosion from him at camp, and that he seems to be full go for this season. So again, I say draft some Kyler Murray or trade Caleb Williams for Kyler Murray and a cherry on top. Why not? Because Kyler Murray has actually proven it, has some insane athleticism, and has a pretty damn good team around him as well. Kyler Murray, a great fantasy football asset. I like him. I like drafting him. I like trading for him. So anyway, that is all the quick news I have for you guys. It's time for the Chiefs. The Chiefs have actually, I guess their beat reporters are just epic. I don't know how else to say it. But yesterday we talked about the Chiefs a lot. And today we're going to talk about the Chiefs a lot. And before we talk about them, I actually just want to scroll through the Kansas City Chiefs social media or just Twitter, because it is just highlight after highlight after highlight. And it's just cool. So here we go. Here's Patrick Mahomes throwing it, of course, to Travis Kelce. Getting a little high step Kelce action in July. Are you kidding me? Here is him throwing to, I don't even know who this guy is. Who's number 12 on the Chiefs? They say rookie. I actually don't know who the hell this guy is. Oh, wait, is that Jared Wiley? Never mind. Wow, he looks like a wide receiver. Either way, that's rookie tight end Jared Wiley. This is Marquise Brown after catching a deep pass. And as you can see here, we saw some deep passes at practice today. Here's a deep pass to Rashee Rice. I mean, it's really, this social media team is going crazy. Drew Tranquil with a pass deflection. sidearm Patrick Mahomes highlights. I mean, like, it is crazy how much this social media team has been putting in work. Here's, him chucking it again, I believe, to Marquise Brown. But it might, it's crazy. It's nice. It is nice to see that they're doing so much on their social media team right now, really keeping us locked in on what's going on in Kansas City and all their practices. And the big thing I want to note, like that tweet with Marquise Brown said, we saw some deep shots at practice today. And that seems to be the big story from Kansas City Chiefs training camp so far, is that Patrick Mahomes is back, ladies and gentlemen. We know that he is kind of, unfortunately, obviously he still won these Super Bowls, but since Tyreek Hill has left, he has kind of gone down to more of a game manager. Like, obviously we still see some of those Superman moments from Patrick Mahomes, but he wasn't necessarily taking as many deep shots because he didn't have the personnel. Now that the personnel is back, we are seeing it all over training camp, and the fans are getting excited and beat reporters are getting excited. We'll start with the tweet from 32 beat writers. The return of the Chiefs' deep passing game was an area of emphasis throughout the offseason training program, and right on cue, it was working well during Tuesday's practices. 3 instances stood out in particular, beginning with a beautiful pitch and catch between Mahomes and Rashee Rice. Mahomes found Rice in stride deep down the sideline despite good coverage, completing one of the practice's top plays. Then beat reporter Pete Sweeney said, all the talk about the Chiefs re-engaging the deep third of the field on this offense hasn't just been talk. Mahomes' willingness to try to go deep has been noticed. And Reed said it really has been a shift in his decision-making due to boosted personnel. The play that got the greatest rise of the crowd on Tuesday happened in the first play on 7-on-7s, with Mahomes connecting with Hollywood Brown on a deep post route. Marquise Brown was also reportedly heavily targeted in these, as was Xavier Worthy, as was Rashee Rice deep. Either way, what we're hearing is that Patrick Mahomes is not scared to chuck it deep anymore because he trusts his receivers. So again, I say, draft them all. Get Marquise Brown. Get Xavier Worthy. Get Rashee Rice while he's still a value. I really don't care. Patrick Mahomes is one of, if not the best quarterback in the league, and he's going to be chucking it again. I'm glad to hear this is back. I'm glad to hear the confidence is back for Patrick Mahomes. It's been there, but he hasn't had the people to kind of supplement it. I mean, like, it's kind of felt like, we saw the Buccaneers Super Bowl a few years back where they lost to Tom Brady, where it was just Patrick Mahomes putting the team on the back, and it was just drop after drop after drop. Marcus Valdes-Scantling was not good. Justin Watson was fine, but what are you going to do, right? Mecole Hardman, they brought him in to see if he had anything left in the tank. He didn't. So it's just, it's good to see. We're glad to see it, and it's awesome. But I don't just want to talk about the Chiefs passing game and the return of Patrick Mahomes. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about Kadarius Toney working with the running backs, and we're actually getting some more insight into that. We know now that actually this is how the snaps went in terms of the first team offense. It was Isaiah Pacheco for 2 snaps, then Deneric Prince for 2 snaps, then Clyde Edwards-Helaire for 2 snaps, then Kadarius Toney, then they brought Isaiah Pacheco back in. So what we can learn from that, 1, Kadarius Toney is actually taking RB snaps on the first team, which is interesting to see, at least for now, which means, of course, Louis Rees-Sammet is taking his running back snaps with the second team, along with Keontae Ingram. We'll see how that develops. Again, I don't believe that Kadarius Toney has it anymore, unfortunately. As elusive as he is, as fun as he is to watch when he's healthy, he just doesn't have it anymore. And again, to me, it just seems like a desperation play by the Chiefs to see what they can squeeze out of him while they have him, because he is athletic. He just can't catch the ball. So we'll see how that develops. But the big thing that we talked about yesterday is that I don't think Kadarius Toney is taking that Jerick McKinnon role. I think if anyone, it's going to be Isaiah Pacheco, who, of course, can catch some passes, or Deneric Prince, as last year during camp, Deneric Prince made some headlines about some of the grabs he was making and how he had absolutely 0 drops throughout the entire training camp. To see now that Deneric Prince is actually out-snapping and going ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire in these first-team running back reps, I think is just a little bit more of a confidence boost into Deneric Prince. It's the Prince that was promised, if you will. I know a lot of us held on to him last year because of the camp hype, because, Jerick McKinnon hadn't been re-signed yet, and it seemed like it'd be him and Isaiah Pacheco. But now it is looking like Deneric Prince will actually have a role on this offense. And this is what Andy Reid had to say about him. He's worked hard this offseason. He's a great kid and he's getting reps now. So we'll see how that goes and how he does once we get the pads on. So I think it's really cool stuff. And we know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire just isn't that good. And so I like that they're actually trying already to move someone ahead of him. And I like that it's Deneric Prince. This is a guy who has really, really good athleticism. Like if you go to PlayerProfiler.com and you pull it up, you actually get pretty surprised by what you see from Mr. Deneric Prince on his page. And let me get you those exact metrics. But either way, he's got good size. He's got good speed. He's got everything, right? He's 6 foot. He's 216 pounds. And he runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. His best comparable is Zamir White. Like, that's a great comparable. That's exactly what you want. That's a slasher right there and a perfect complement to Isaiah Pacheco, who is also reportedly working with wide receivers and the Chiefs wide receiver coach to work on his hands and route running. So again, it seems like Isaiah Pacheco is just really moving into this true bell cow role where he's going to be asked to catch passes as well. But it's looking like right now it is actually Deneric Prince right behind him, then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, with Kadarius Toney kind of filling a gadget role. But again, I still think at some point that Louis Rees-Zammit is going to take that. It's just a gut feeling. That guy just has crazy athleticism. He's getting the support from all of the team, from the coaching staff. It's just going to take some time. Like, I would be very surprised if he was already taking snaps with the first team. So I think it's just going to take some time. He's never played football before, but I do think it's inevitable. I just do. Like, he's very athletic. He's great with the ball in his hands because he's a rugby player. Like, it just seems like a match made in heaven in Kansas City with how creative they are, how athletic he is, and how there's actually like a need for a random gadget player on that team. So again, I do kind of want to stash Louis Rees-Zammit, especially in special team scoring formats, but it is seeming like he's going to earn a role on this team and make the roster, to be completely honest with you. Well, maybe not make the roster. Practice squad. He's not going to be a free agent. Like, I think that at worst, he's practice squad and gets elevated at some point. But I do think by the end of preseason, he's going to earn a roster spot. I think he's that athletic. That's what we're learning. That is what we're learning, is that LRC is just that athletic and that driven that we just have to buy into it. At least I think. So anyway, that is the Chiefs camp update. Deneric Prince right now ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Patrick Mahomes taking his deep shots again. Isaiah Pacheco working with wide receivers. And Kadarius Toney's running back snaps are actually on the first team. Not necessarily just kind of being worked in randomly. Actually, I just remembered a couple quick things that I actually didn't put on the show sheet, but I did see that the Bengals, as expected, are expected to give Andre Iosivas a much bigger role this offseason or this season, as well as Chase Brown. Both takes that we've talked about a lot here on Wake and Take. Chase Brown is just so much more athletic and better than Zach Moss. And Andre Iosivas, again, another player with a ton of athleticism and caught like 4 touchdown passes last year as a rookie. In fact, I think all of his targets were touchdowns or all of his receptions were touchdowns or something crazy like that. Or like one of his receptions wasn't. I remember being shocked by his box score, but he already has that, connection with Joe Burrow. And I do think that position is open out. I do think that Andre Iosivas beats out Jermaine Burton. I know it's a hot take, but yeah. 4 of his red zone targets were touchdowns. Either way, doesn't matter. All 4 of his receptions from Joe Burrow or something like that. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm speaking out of my ass right now when it comes to Iosivas. Either way, I like the athleticism, and I think that him already being on the team and establishing that connection with Joe Burrow from last season is going to help a lot there. So again, get Chase Brown because of his athleticism, and get Andre Iosivas because of his athleticism. Someone is going to pop off in Cincinnati. Actually, and Gesicki. Again, we ended yesterday's show by saying don't forget about Mike Gesicki. I'm going to say it again, too. I think that his athleticism and potential usage is very good as well. So anyway, that is all the training camp news I have for you guys from yesterday. There's a ton of news right now. We're in news season. It's incredible, incredible stuff. So keep tuning into Wake and Take. I'm going to go ahead and hop into the chat real quick. I saw you guys popping off all morning. So let me see if we have any interesting questions here. Boop, boop, boo. Flournoy going up. I agree. We got to get more Flournoy excitement. I mean, so think about it this way. The big news about CeeDee Lamb holding out is that all of the other receivers are going to have a chance to work with the first team, right? Like that's the understated thing here. When people talk about holdouts and all this stuff, it just means that all the other players are getting that much more opportunity. So yes, Flournoy going up, even if nothing really affects, like nothing comes out about him. He's going up. He's getting more work, and that's exactly what you want to hear. Yeah, Jerry just plays hardball. Do I think the Chiefs rugby player will make the team? Yes, I do, Paul. Yes, I do. Mark Butler says Lance to Flournoy. We actually did hear at rookie training camp that this was happening. That the Trey Lance to Flournoy connection was actually happening, which I think is just hilarious. Let's see. Thank you, Terminal Sarcasm. Thank you very much. Bill's just worried about banking banks. So true. So true. Fantasy Plumber, congrats on your Parkinson shares, not on your Parkinson's. I hope you don't have Parkinson's. We'll figure that out, Donald. We'll figure that out. Let's see. In an FFPC Superflex Triflex League, would you trade Zach Moss for Jahan Dotson? Yes. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Take the wide receiver there. I think that Zach Moss is fine. If you need a running back for this season, I guess, sure. But I think you're going to be able to find similar production elsewhere. And I think Jahan Dotson has some ceiling left in him still. As we know, for example, his best comparable is Tyler Lockett, and he took a few years. Yeah, I agree. I'd rather see Minshew start as well. I agree that they have a better ceiling with Minshew. I think they would be okay with Aiden O'Connell, but I really think that Gardner Minshew can win a couple extra games and keep them just a little bit more competitive because, again, he is a very good game manager. To the House says that fine is better than okay. I think I agree. It's close. It's close. We've got to figure out the okay to good scale or okay to great scale. We've got to figure that out. Last year, MVS and Watson only had 45% snap shares. That won't be the case this year with X and Hollywood. You expect Rice, X, and Hollywood to all have 55 to 60%. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if all of them were even higher than that, to be completely honest. I think that I know that they do rotate their wide receivers a lot, but I think that Xavier Worthy at least was brought in to run sprints, to be completely honest with you, and we'll see what that means. But I really do think that him and Hollywood Brown almost essentially were just brought in to run sprints, while Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce kind of own the middle of the field. Ryan Voltz dropped his Michael Gallup for generic Prince. Congratulations. Let's see. Did you talk about where Adams may go? It sounds like Adams isn't going anywhere, right? From everything I'm hearing is that he is staying in Las Vegas, from what I understand. Someone offered me a 2025 second and third for Chase Brown. I smashed accept. We'll see. I don't know. I think that you get good value, but I think that that's good value. But I also wouldn't be surprised if you wish you had Chase Brown by the end of the season. Again, we saw some really good athleticism from him last year. We saw some great explosiveness, especially as a pass-catching running back. This is still Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, even if Callahan is gone. And it's going to be a high-powered offense. It really will. And I just don't think Zach Moss is that good. And even if he is, I still expect, Chase Brown to have the good plays, the explosive plays. And I don't think the Chiefs are really going to find themselves, the Bengals are going to find themselves in a situation where they can address running back. There's a reason they let Joe Mixon go, despite being productive for them. They want a budget running back room because they've got to pay Burrow and Chase. So I don't know. I am hesitant selling Chase Brown right now. I think you got good value. A second is probably about what he's worth. And the fact you get a third on top of him is awesome. And, the fact is that Chase Brown was a third-round draft pick last year. So, I mean, you technically got some value, or 2023. You technically get some free value anyway. It's not like you lose anything. I don't know. I think that Chase Brown has some ceiling in him for real. I really, really do. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, that should do it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You all have a wonderful Wednesday. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to Player Profiler and the Player Profiler News. Make sure you check out the Wake and Take podcast via the link in the description. And you all, again, have a wonderful Wednesday, a terrific rest of your week, and I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern for some more, probably, training camp news, I'm assuming. But we might actually get some takes this week. We'll find out. But either way, see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.